I think that people should have access to artwork, and it shouldn't be put away just for people who can afford it. And that's why I make my stuff out of bronze, because it can go outside. And these are my figures. They're based on African art, and they're based on Greek mythology, so they go back and forth from different aspects. I have these little girls, and they represent to me angels and mermaids and things that are fantasy, things that are dreams, and some of them have different moods and different attitudes. I have one sculpture which is called Echo, and Echo's a hair puller, and she's named after the Greek mythological figure Echo, and she fell in love with Narcissus, and he didn't return her love, so she screamed. And I didn't know how to project the screaming, so what I did is I have her pulling her hair, and by pulling her hair, it's a universal feeling of frustration and anger, and that's what I have her feeling, and devastation, because she's not getting the love she would like to get. I have another one which is Iris the mermaid, and Iris the mermaid is, like her name, Iris in Greek mythology means rainbow. So she starts with a color on the bottom, which changes gradually up to the top. And Iris is going through a transformation. Her breasts, her nipples are turning into fish, and she's horrified because she didn't expect this to happen to her. She didn't expect to be changing into a fish. She didn't expect to be changing. And in some way that reflects who I am. I'm like a little horrified about changing and getting older, and things are changing in my life. The thought of things not being consistent. So in some ways, Iris reflects who I am. And most of the sculptures do reflect who I am, or what I feel at certain times. They're supposed to be based on humor, because I think humor is really important. I think humor relieves tension, and I hope that these sculptures relieve tension and add enjoyment to people who see them. The process of making the sculptures for me is in a lot of ways very typical, because I use the lost wax bronze process that's been used for 2,000 years. And what I do is I start with an armature out of aluminum, and on the armature I place plastilina, which is a oil-based clay that doesn't harden. And with the plastilina I make the shape of the sculpture. I make what I want to make. In terms of the plastilina, gives me a lot of freedom. I can add on to it and I can remove, which is very nice to have in sculpture. Then from the plastilina, after that's finished, I take it over to a foundry, and I take it to, the foundries I use are Betty Mackey in New York or Renari Foundry in New York. And each one I use for different reasons, and they're both fabulous. And so once I take my work over to them, they will make a mold, and from the mold they'll make a wax, and I'll come back to the foundry and I will work on the wax to shape it in ways that I would like to shape it to. And then after that they'll take it and they'll do the lost wax process, which will come out as a bronze. And once it's in the bronze, the shiny, beautiful bronze color, I decide to do things to it if it needs to be done. So by defining do things to it, I will, if there's something not in the place I like it, I'll drill into the eye if it isn't deep enough, or if I don't like a shape of something, I will move and I will change the shapes. And after that, we'll pick out the patinas that are within a normal range of natural patinas. I prefer the natural patinas because the patinas that are natural will protect the sculpture over time, and I would like my sculptures to be able to be substantial and not fall apart over time, which is very important to me, and not get bronze disease, which is a disease that some bronze sculptures will get, where the bronze is being eaten away in the inside. because there's not a proper chemical relationship between the tin and the copper. So what we do with the patina is we have the gold piece, and then we take some type of color that we like, and I'll stand there with either Bill or Dominic, and they will take a torch and go over the colors till we reach the right colors, and we'll build up the colors, and you put the color on, let it calm down a little because it gets hot till you reach your color, and then when you're finished it gets waxed down. You put a wax to have a buff on it, and then it gets mounted, and I have different ways of mounting the sculptures. Some spin, some are still, some are on granite, some are on wood, depending on the piece. I like the viewer to be involved with my pieces. So what I do is I put them in a certain place, and I usually cluster them together, and I tell a story about what I think the story should be, or what the characters are doing with each other. And then I like it when other people tell their own story. They have the characters, they know what they're supposed to represent, they know their names, and then people tell their own stories, and you learn about people. You learn about your character, but you also learn about what you're interested in by what you choose to speak about, and you participate. And to me, it's very important for people to participate with the sculptures, to be interactive. And using your mind and your own story is a really nice thing to do, and anybody can do it. You can be old, you can be young. Anyone can tell their own story with these sculptures. I'm going to talk about my paintings, and my paintings are special to me because I can use color, and I love color. I love bright colors, I love beautiful colors. Colors make me feel alive, and I get to use all these colors that I like in my paintings. So I like to paint landscapes, and I like to paint people, and I like to paint military paintings for the Coast Guard. And I have some paintings in the Coast Guard collection and in the Cradle of Aviation Museum of people that I, in one way or another, respect. But with the paintings, I like to go to places that I've painted at or seen or photographed, and I like to reenact them in my paintings and make them in the paintings almost as a permanent place. And I like to pick out what is in that place that makes me feel good. What is there that removes me from this world and puts me to a dreamlike world? What is it when I wake up in the morning and I look at it and I want to look at it? I want to wake up, I want to see this painting, I want to remember what happened at this certain time. And that's what I like a lot about the paint. And painting's very interesting because you can reinvent a period of time, you can reinvent an occurrence. You can do what you can put in what you want to put in instead of what is really there. And that's what I try to do. I try to make the paintings resemble places, and yet at the same time I don't focus on being realistic because I don't want to do that. I want to focus on what I liked about that certain place. And behind me is a painting of Bariloche, and in Bariloche, when I went there, I couldn't believe the smell, the clearness, the blue, the shimmer that I saw when I was in the mountains in Bariloche.